Good morning. Welcome to Just for Today, a time of eclectic reading, sharing of perspectives, meditation, and prayer. I'm Reverend Ray Fellis, Senior Minister and Spiritual Leader of the newly joined Centers of Spiritual Living of Columbia and Greater Baltimore. Today is May 21st. And what caught my attention this morning was No Matter What. It is a wonderful book by Lisa Nichols. You can overcome every obstacle, no matter what. And I opened it up and it landed on chapter 5, Developing Your Honesty Muscle, Keeping It Real. And here's what she offers us in the first three very short paragraphs. If you want to get anywhere in your life, honesty isn't just the best policy, it's the only policy, especially honesty with yourself. Though it's common knowledge that lying to others isn't acceptable, many of us consider lying to ourselves perfectly fine. Often we coast along in life, reluctant to face the truth, even actively avoiding it, and as a result, we repeat old destructive patterns of behavior, which in turn compounds our mistakes. Instead of creating success, we make a mess. Think about it. If you aren't willing to look at where you are, how can you get where you want to go? When you're navigating with a map, you can't figure out how to get to your destination unless you know the location you're starting from. In life, this means acknowledging your present situation fully, which requires a level of honesty many people don't choose to embrace. Hmm. I've been one of those many people. How about you? Um, One of the things that is most precious to me now is my integrity, my wholeness, my refusal to allow any level of dishonesty for myself. Uh, and it's subtle stuff, right? This socialized thinking of dismissal is very subtle. Um, it comes out in, oh, I know, but that really doesn't matter. Or, well, that's not, I know, but I just don't like saying it out loud. Or it's just a little white lie. Or I didn't lie, I just didn't tell the whole truth. Um, we have all kinds of code phrases that encourage us and support us in being dishonest with ourselves. I will share this with you. When I learned to be honest with me, being honest with everybody else became way less scary. Way less scary. I was the biggest barrier to living an honest, authentic life. My own judgments, my own self hatred, my own refusal of self acceptance, and my refusal to own that was the greatest dishonesty that was operating. And it kept me stuck in all of these patterns of behavior and thinking that supported the nullification of my authentic self. And it was not until I chose to honestly say, first to myself and then out loud to another human being, what was true for me. All of the just insane thoughts that I had about my own worth or lack thereof. I didn't really have any thoughts about my worth because I didn't believe I had any. And I think many of us, that's the point on the map that we're starting with, is this point where we really don't know our worth. We really don't know our value. And admitting that opens a little crack in the door for us to begin to explore that honestly. Because what I know for sure is that everything I know is subject to revision, especially what I know about the truth. um, it's just because I have all these things. I mean, and sometimes that whole thing of truth is my biggest defense mechanism. And am I willing to be honest about that? Take the 30,000 foot view and be open to exploring that perhaps there is a different way to look at everything. I tend to look at it as different seats in the stadium of life, right? So if I'm sitting at the 50-yard line, I'm going to see a whole different view of the game of life than if I'm up at the nosebleed seats off in the corner, right? Um, Welcome to my sports brain. And so perhaps figure out the analogy, the imagery that works for you to give yourself full on, unobstructed, undefended permission to tell yourself the truth about you. And I promise you, it is way more important to tell yourself the truth about you than to try to figure out what's true about somebody else. Because even if you figure it out, even if you get it right, it changes nothing. I will offer you this, and then I want to open it up for comments. When I say the serenity prayer, I have learned to say, grant me the serenity to accept the thing that I can change, the courage to know the difference, and the wisdom to know it's me. Right? I'm the only thing I can change, really. And as I change me, the life around me changes because the law of attraction attracts based on who I'm being. And who I'm being drives what I'm doing. And all of that works in the law of attraction. And all of that begins and ends with my willingness to be honest with myself. So I open that up. If any of you have comments that you would like to share in the chat, I would love to experience those. And if not, we'll just move into our meditation. Just pause here for just a moment. Okay. So I'm not seeing anything. So I'm going to read our reading one more time, and so we can take that into our time of meditation and contemplation. If you want to get anywhere in your life, honesty isn't just the best policy, it's the only policy, especially honesty with yourself. Though it's common knowledge that lying to ourselves isn't acceptable, lying to others isn't acceptable, many of us consider lying to ourselves perfectly fine. Often we coast along in life, reluctant to face the truth, even actively avoiding it, and as a result, we repeat old destructive patterns of behavior, which in turn compounds our mistakes. Instead of creating success, we make a mess. Think about it. If you're If you aren't willing to look at where you are, how can you get to where you want to go? When you're navigating with a map, you can't figure out how to get to your destination unless you know the location you're starting from. In life, this means acknowledging your present situation fully, which requires a level of honesty many people don't choose to embrace. So as I drop further inward into the interior, to the essence, to the unseen side of life, I recognize that there is only one power, no oppositional power, one power that is everywhere present, expressing itself as all of creation, as every element of creation, expressing itself as the seen and unseen. One substance that is the source of all, known by many, many names: God, Buddha, Jesus, Allah, Great Spirit, the Great Mystery Spirit, the Infinite, known by many, many names. It is unnameable in its enormity. It is infinite and ever expanding, unretainable, in that it is not retained by any circumference. It was created out of itself. Simply always has been. It is the very ground of being. And I am that in form. One substance can only express itself. There is no other substance to use other than itself. And so all of life, everything expressed in form, must be the substance of this one, individualized in form. So I recognize that I am that. I recognize that all life is that. That what is true of me is true of all, from the tiniest grain of sand to the most majestic cosmos. Every human, animal, vegetable, mineral, gas, everything seen and unseen is this one, individualized. One expressing in multiplicity. Every form, a divine, intentional, on purpose, one of a kind, never to be repeated desire of this infinite oneness, this infinite wholeness, to expand itself and its experience and expression of itself. And so the perfection that it is the perfection of its creation. Beyond our human, beyond our human thought limitations, beyond our conditioned thinking that restricts us, perfection is at the core of our being. And so I claim and affirm that that perfection is being lifted into our awareness. That everything that blocks the awareness of the perfection of being simply is dissipated in the light of truth. That each and every expression of this divine perfection is coming to an awareness, coming to a level of honesty that refuses to negate itself for one more moment. A level of honesty that recognizes, that owns, that proudly is the divine expression of life that it is. That any fear of honesty is simply melted away and neutralized as effortlessly as melting butter. that there is no battle against the self, but rather a gentle neutralizing of every lie that is a barrier to the self, from the self. And as each barrier is neutralized, there is a holy wow as each element of the self is recognized, is celebrated, is owned, fully owned, and lived undefended. I claim and affirm that I remember this day that nothing outside of me can ever define me. That what defines me is that spiritual truth of me. And I allow that to be the foremost present thought in my awareness today. I allow the truth of my being to guide every decision, every choice, every behavior, knowing that as I live authentically, peace, joy, love are mine. Mine to experience rather than to hope for. They're already present. I'm simply choosing them now. I choose life. I choose to honor life's expression of itself as me. And I celebrate. I celebrate the activity of creation, the law of manifestation that simply receives the spoken word, the impress of thought, the belief, and acts upon it, making it so. The doer of creation that simply does, with no evaluation, with no judgment, with no second guessing, with no sending the work order back for revision. It simply acts upon and makes it so. And so I know that the word spoken this morning is already fulfilled. In the timeless now of creation, it's already done. It was done before I spoke it. It was done as soon as I imagined it, thought it, believed it. Immediately done in the only moment there is now. And so I let go. I release all doubt. I release all human fear. I release the lie that the human me has to control anything. And I surrender it all to the unfolding of life as me. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amen. Amen. And so it is. Namaste.